just cutthroat.
Nope,
Can't do that.
Nope, sorry, not having it's against your character, but I made the character. I don't care.
TNMP, the Nerdy Misfit Podcast, with your hosts, Connor O'Neill and Matthew Hughes.
Hello.
We did it.
We did it. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Nerdy Misfit Podcast with your hosts, Connor O'Neill and Matthew Hughes.
That's us.
That's us.
Just us today.
Just us today. Last week, crazy guest.
Crazy guest. And as you would notice, we are keeping with the new trend of being, I guess we're doing this face cam. We are in the same room.
Yeah, we're literally across from each other. So if we're ever looking up and not at the camera,
if we're ever looking like this, it's because we're looking at each other. We're right in their eyes, one another.
And if we're ever looking this way, it's because we have a camera. We have a setup over here that is completely relevant to you guys, but
an idea. It's so we know where we're in frame.
Yeah, exactly.
But this, we're going to go with this kind of view for the time being with the overlay. Purpose being, one, some people did like the farther out camera view, but it wasn't catching much, where now you can still see reactions. If you notice, you can probably see my lip quivering during the interview last week, where I was definitely a little nervous.
But we did it.
So mostly just be able to see facial reactions to stuff. And the mics aren't as in the way. We just don't have a lot of room to play with here.
Not yet.
We don't have a real set, so we got to work with what we got.
Working on it.
And these webcams are definitely of a good enough quality. Maybe we might fix some lighting, some little tweaks, but for the most part, I think this is where we're comfortable going for the rest of season 2 at the very least.
Exactly.
If we do end up having one shots though, which we do plan on doing, we'll bring out a different setup, full cam to see the rolls and everything. So that we're on the ball for that, I think.
Yeah.
But last week, 2 years of the podcast, celebrated by having on a guest.
Yes.
The biggest guest we've had on so far. No
offense to anyone else.
We loved everyone. We want to have a lot of them back on, including Teching. And it was great. Super nice guy. I don't have anything bad to say, honestly. He made everything very easy. He was very easy to talk to.
Very chill, down to earth.
Pre-recording and after recording, we had chats a bit, and it was super chill. So we would love to have him back on. And we couldn't have done this without all of you guys that listen and watch the podcast. So thanks a lot.
Be here 105 episodes later.
105 episodes. And we're finally, we're always improving.
Week by week.
Which is what we're trying, I think. So we've got the audio pretty down pat, I would say.
Audio's pretty clean. Very little hiccups.
So it's now just the video stuff we're figuring out.
Exactly.
I actually was also testing stuff today that maybe in the future, maybe we do a live stream of us recording a podcast as if you caught it, you caught it.
Yeah.
And it can just be a little fun, for the super fans out there.
Super fans.
But we'll see.
Yeah.
Today, we're actually, I think we hinted at it, that we are doing an RPG wrap up, catch up, what the heck's going on in the RPGs that are going on. Because, if you guys didn't know, Matt is the GM of a Power Ranger RPG. Yeah. He's probably discussed it once or twice.
3-ish sessions now.
And how many people do you have in your group?
Consistently or overall?
I would say on average.
On average, 6.
6.
Yeah. So I'm DMing
and it's your first
people.
time.
Yeah, first time DMing.
So that's a lot of people.
Well, yeah. So the way it went is it started with 4. It started with 4, then it became 5, and then it became
6, then it
2.
became 7. Well,
because there was a couple people that couldn't come to a couple sessions.
You just had a session with 2 people?
No, sorry, 3.
Oh, okay.
And then we added a 4th person before we went back to 5, and then Maddie joined and she became another one. So then that was the core 6. Okay. And then we actually have a 7th player who's the Red Ranger who came back for a special session 2 sessions ago because he's been busy. He was getting his steak and dough ready and then his wedding and everything like that. So very stressful stuff. So, but he
speaking of
came out,
which
ties into the next.
we'll be
thing.
having something else discussed. RPGs, which is very weird to say in the same sentence, but it's true.
We'll get to that. So the biggest the biggest session I've done with full playable characters was 7, but I did a session where there was 9 people, where 3 of them played kind of like NPCs that they collected along the way, because it was the Wizard of Oz themed one. So we had someone playing the Scarecrow, the Tin Man. No, just Scarecrow and the Lion, actually, because the guy who played Tin Man didn't show up, so it was 8 of us. So 8 is the biggest, technically speaking.
Very interesting group, because I was going to say, for our D&D campaign is on a hiatus. Someone, their job requires them to wake up very early, and on our time slot that we had put out for everyone, he would already be sleeping, and so we had to basically it's indefinitely on hiatus for now until we figure something out, or different job or different schedule, who knows. And for us, we always did, if 2 people couldn't make it, we axed that session. So for you, it sounds like it's just all over the place.
If you're there, you're there. If not,
is that just because you guys haven't like preset those rules, or it's just because you just want to keep playing?
A lot of people want to keep playing. The way the story goes is it feels like there's like a mini arc every 2 to 3 sessions.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate, because if you miss the beginning of one of the arcs,
it's a lot harder.
There's a higher chance that you won't be in the next one. But like, for example, we did one where Christian, who's been on the podcast before, he was in the Blue Beetle episode.
Blue Beetle.
He wasn't able to make it to one session, so we had it where his character was on a mission to a planet, and that's why he wasn't there. And then that session ended with the Rangers going to that planet, so it was able for him to join back in next session.
Yeah.
Whereas there was a couple ones where Ebats, Eddie,
who's also been on the podcast,
always also been on the podcast, he wasn't able to show up for a couple sessions because of his work. So when we had this big like carnival fight, we said that him and the other ranger that wasn't available was on the other side of the carnival doing their own thing.
Yeah.
And then we had the rest of them still there, and then he joined up. The sad thing is the fact that the Red Ranger, who we've done 23 sessions, and he's been in technically 2. Technically
no, 3. What are you doing, Red Ranger?
He was in the first 2 sessions.
He baited everyone.
We did like a 9 to 10 month hiatus, and then that's when we got back to doing bi-weeklies, and he just wasn't able to do it. So we put his character basically in a coma, and the benefit of him coming back for that 3rd session, when I had the 7 Rangers, is they were in the year 2026. And he finally woke up from his coma, and he was like,
so they did like a little bit of a future, like
Future's End kind of.
So he still got to play, but it didn't affect the current situation of his character.
Yeah.
That's clever.
And it's interesting because some characters will be like, "Yo, can I go like see him and like just talk to him while he's in a coma?" And I'm like, 100%, man. Like, you're more than welcome to. He still
for the
exists.
Drama.
We have an entire server in regards to our campaign. So like for in between sessions, if like I say like, "Oh, a couple weeks have passed. What has your character been up to?" Like they'll message each other doing, or privately,
Yeah, I will say your players are definitely very into the game, which is good because it helps obviously create that real immersive feeling and immersive experience. So that's pretty cool. Are they all Power Ranger fans, or is it just like half of them, or what?
Say 2 or 3 of them. Like I know Tim,
who's been on the podcast,
Door Number 2 Studio podcast. Dude, he was also on the podcast. He's been on the podcast a few times. Obviously, Tim, the D&D guru. He grew up on Power Rangers. Christian, who's been in Power Rangers. I think Eddie may have watched a season or 2. Roberto, who hasn't been on the podcast. I don't think he really watched it, but Roberto is the one that paints all of our minis for us.
He's into it.
So
in his own way. He's found his way. He's found his niche in it.
Exactly. Yeah. Katie and Maddie, I think Maddie watched Power Rangers, but I don't think Katie did. But Katie really likes just world building and exploring kind of thing.
Well, did Katie just watch once or twice and then get into it, or just you? Because you and Katie work together.
Yeah.
So
I work with everyone.
Was it just you describing the sessions, and she's like, "Man, this sounds like a lot of fun."
Well, that's actually how like Christian got into it too. Because before I was actually friends with Christian, I met him. It was at like a work Halloween party.
Yeah.
And him and I just chatted away. And he's like, "Oh, that's awesome! Like, I watch Power. I'd love to like join it." And I was like, "Yeah, man." And then I met with him like 2 weeks later. We created his character.
And then you're like, "So I saw Blue Beetle." He's like, "I love Blue Beetle." You're like, you should be on the podcast.
Exactly. I mean, Christian was fun to have on the podcast.
He's great.
Shout out to Christian if you're listening to this while you drive around in your work truck. Thanks for listening.
And thanks for doing good work.
Exactly. But otherwise, yeah, we're on a little bit of a couple week break because one of the players has gone to Italy for a little bit. I'm going to try and plan a session in a week or two because without going into detail, because I know a lot of the players listen to the podcast, we had Maddie's character died after a big fight. They finally fought like one of the big bads. They were celebrating, and then
Planned death
okay, between Maddie and I.
Yep.
She got killed, and then we brought in, surprise, surprise, a different timeline version of her character.
Oh, very nice. Very Matt.
Very Matt, obviously, but it was super fun because her character in the main continuity was kind of like a little bit sad, a little bit of drugs, slight alcoholic, being like, not alcoholic, but like the party teenager aspect, right? The troubled, the really troubled teenager.
She was a gossip girl teenager.
In a way, yeah. She found out that her parents weren't actually her parents because she was adopted. Like, there was a lot of stuff going on.
Oh, there's some deep cuts.
Yeah, it was very sad, actually. So when she died, everyone was like, what the heck? And then we had like a whole, like, part of the session was a funeral.
They wanted to make
for
sure
her.
everyone else was sad.
Yeah, literally. At this time, we had Maddie go into the washroom, like, and just kind of leave the table saying she had to go to the washroom. And she, like, changed and, like, did her hair differently. So she came back out at the end of the session as a
meta.
different version of her character, Kimmy. But this Kimmy goes by Kimberly because in her world, basically everything is all happy-go-lucky. Like, they're all Power Rangers, but they kick butt. No one's ever died. No one's really ever, like, had a bad day.
Parents are her parents.
Parents are her parents. Everyone's relatives are still alive. La-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
So she's all happy-go-lucky. She has, like, nicknames for everyone. Like, there's Worry Wart instead of Warren. There's, like, TJ instead of Tristan. Chucky, I think, goes by Charles. Like, everyone had their own little names. Ray goes by, like, Ray.
So names are all changed.
Yeah, so we did it all, like, everyone's all happy and la-da-da-da-da, which was super fun. And then she played a couple sessions as that version of Kimberly before, at the end of this most recent session, we had one of our Rangers give up their morpher because they don't think they're worth it anymore.
Oh, classic.
We had Kimberly go back to her own timeline, and then we had character Penelope, Katie's character, go on a Europe trip with her family. So she, in quotations, left the group for the time being. So 3 of our Rangers aren't really
dropped
there
off for
anymore. So there's some stuff going on behind the scenes of how is Maddie going to continue to play without either versions of Kimmy being there, But we foreshadowed multiverse upon multiverse. So, no one...
There's timelines, there's multiverses, there's options.
Exactly. Time travel, etc.
I see.
I've talked to a few players. I'm like, yo, Flashpoint was a thing, not in this universe, so please don't. But but I also look for feedback with my players too. I'm like, hey, is there something you want to do with your character moving on?
Yeah, smart question to ask.
Because I don't plan all of my sessions. But does a true DM
Shouldn't tell them that.
No, they know. They all know that I'll be like,
It's
hey
chaos.
guys, campaign's in like 7 hours. I haven't really planned anything yet.
Oh dear.
But then I find,
that's like next level procrastination.
Yeah, it's pretty sad sometimes. But anyways, moving on from my...
You also
Power
go
Ranger,
extremely far, though, sometimes.
I do.
Maybe you should try balance it out.
It's true. The Wizard of Oz campaign, that session, I built a Lego maze, like a 3D Lego corn maze, basically.
Yep.
For the Rangers to go through and everything. More recently, when we did the Coliseum planet, Roberto created a Coliseum base for us.
Well, and you had all the characters.
And I had a lot of the characters. Yeah, it was 90s to early 2000 like toy lines and action figures. So they fought Optimus Prime. There was Play-Doh. There was He-Man and Lion-O and Garfield and Chuck E. Cheese, which, by the way, the E stands for entertainment. His name is Charles Entertainment Cheese.
Oh, so we know what the E stands for.
Exactly. And then we had a Blue Eyes White Dragon and a Cabbage Patch Kid, which transformed into a Garbage Pail Kid. There was a lot. We had a Blue Beetle figure specifically so Christian could play as Blue Beetle. We had a Troll doll, My Little Pony.
A lot goes into some sessions, less maybe so. And so what happens during the less pre-planned? I don't want to say like because you're definitely not railroading them. It's definitely their own journey.
Yeah. I have basically I have an open concept where I'm like, in my head, I'm like, hey, my thing is that I know how to end each session.
Or where you would
most
likely want to end.
Yeah, I can assure you, the session where Roberto wanted to pretend to be one of the bad guys and then rolled a nat 20 to get teleported into the bad guy's ship was not my idea. Did I have to end the session where that happened and he was kidnapped? Yes.
Yeah, because then you get in, you're forced your hand. You're like, I haven't thought that far ahead.
Exactly.
It happens. That's just part of being a GM or a DM. You just sometimes the players don't do what you think.
Well, that's the thing. Like even the most recent session, they were on a Coliseum planet. Turns out it was like an Ego the Living Planet kind of situation where 5 of them came together with the power of earth, air, water, earth, and heart.
Oh.
And combined, they made Captain Planet, and Captain Planet was like this ego style thing.
Yeah.
And they were about to leave. They like basically beat the crap out of Captain Planet, and there was like a prisoner that they were trying to rescue, and the prisoner was like, "No, like I can't leave. Like I'm an entity of the planet." And then Roberto was like, "Well, what happens if you try to like suck the life out of Captain Planet? Would you become like the new avatar of this planet?" And I was like, "That is so out of left field." But you can roll for it and like see where this goes.
You can certainly try.
And he did. And that's where that so now they defeated the Captain Planet, but the planet itself still existed. So it was very peculiar.
Okay, then.
But yeah, so I have I have a rough idea of how the next session's kind of going to go. But I think sometimes I feel burnt out more than anything.
I mean, that's just part of it. I mean, you need breaks too.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're working on planning a session, I think, especially if there's anyone that can just be like, hey, sorry, but
no session
it's
tonight.
canceled.
Yeah. That would be me.
I mean, if anyone has the most power, it would be you.
Yeah, but you know me. And some of the people that know me that when they listen to this, I am fortunately I'm a people pleaser. I can't say no, you know? So if people want things changed, I do my best to change it.
You should just turn into a savage GM just randomly. Just cutthroat.
Nope.
Can't do that.
Nope, sorry, not happening. It's against your character, but I made the character. I don't care. No, I couldn't do that.
All right.
Well, but anyways, that's my
you actually
15-minute rant.
A Dungeons and Dragons. Well, we'll call it Dungeons and Dragons Light.
Yeah, light. Yes.
Very recently. If you can't tell, we are quite tired. I think it's safe to say that the weekend did not help with that.
No, it's a long weekend for both of us for different reasons, same reasons. But
so we had
Saturday.
Well, actually, we have to backtrack to Friday. Because I had people stay over.
Yes.
Because they were going to be. We had a a bachelor party.
Just gotta
everything's
my mic here.
Everything's merging together.
The days do blend together.
But so a bachelor party was on Saturday.
Yep.
And the bachelor wanted a one shot. So we got the one and only Eric, who's been on the podcast. Who is also one of the Chip brothers.
Yep. If you don't remember, and if you haven't listened to that D&D one shot that we did.
We did. We had Tim, who DM'd the first one shot, first of more, for the Chip brothers. It was me, Matt, and Eric, who were the Chip brothers. And so it was a pretty big player. It was 8 players, and then the DM.
Yep.
And we had a couple of people who've never played or maybe played once before, don't remember all the rules kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So his goal was to make a more simple version of Dungeons and Dragons, just to make it easy to explain and easy to follow. And yeah, I thought it was pretty solid. We rented out a space where
Great
we
place.
were. Yeah,
it's where I did my first Power Ranger session
a
couple years
big
back.
table.
Fit us all.
Fit us all. On top of that, obviously had tons of board games that people are interested in playing and or purchasing.
I almost purchased multiple games.
And also had 3 escape rooms as well. So definitely a lot of fun. I would highly recommend going for sure. And as someone who, this was your second time playing Dungeons and Dragons, even if
I've played other RPGs before, as people have listened, like Gloomhaven, for example. I have Animal Adventures at Home, which is like a cat dog RPG style one. But I've played a few different ones over the years. But yeah, this was my second time playing D&D, specifically Dungeons and Dragons. The first time,
even though this one's definitely like not full D&D, but in that world.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Dungeons and Dragons inspired, like you said, D&D light. This is my second time playing. I thought it was really fun. I had a lot of fun. It wasn't overbearing or stressful because I feel like when I was first playing D&D, when we did the one shot,
we made the characters.
We made the characters from scratch, which obviously we did a whole episode on that. Session 0 for newbies.
Yep. We made the characters. We rolled. We did everything.
Yeah. So that was a little bit extra, which was fun in that regard. But I mean, like when you look at full D&D, you can have up to like 4 pages worth of info.
Oh,
so
yeah, it's crazy.
Eric did this beautifully well done thing where it was all, I don't want to say cut, but it was just like, these are your characters. This is exactly what you're able to do. Bada bing, bada boom.
Yeah, like
Tell me what
I think
you
it
wanna
was
do.
it was like there were a couple melee, there were a couple spellcasters, there was one spellcaster that was a healer, and one tank, and everyone kind of had like one special ability.
Yep.
And then two, and the way we kind of did was you can do 2 actions. That was either using an item, or for Matt was played a melee character, so he could do 2 melee attacks in a turn, and that was it. Just to keep it very simple, spellcasters, to make it even easier, instead of having spell slots, each spell had a number of times it could be used.
Yep.
So that made it a lot easier to just be like, hey, I've used this spell once or twice, I'm done.
Done deal, yeah.
I thought from a gameplay point of view, it was very simple, very easy to follow, especially for the new players. They didn't seem to have any issues.
Yeah.
And then the Bachelor had the only character with real history or backstory.
Yeah. To incorporate into the one
Yeah.
shot.
It was what you expect. It was kind of a save the princess ish kind of story, which was awesome. That's when I talked to Eric about doing this for the bachelor party. That was kind of our goal, was to do that kind. It is a little bit cliche, but I thought we may as well go with it because it's fun that way. So we did the saving the princess, who Eric hilariously used the bride to be's name, but not her name.
Did we say who the Bachelor is? I mean,
well, we've had the Bachelor who's Daniel,
on the podcast,
who's Daniel, who we had
not Dan Dutchan, the other Dan.
Yeah, another Dan. We talked about Star Wars.
Yep.
And his name in this one shot was Daniel. So, and his wife had a similar name where it was her name, but not really her name.
Yeah, an old style version.
So that was kind of funny. And yeah, it was the princess got taken for whatever reason. There was a little bit of mystery, finding out who took her, where, why, etc.
Yep.
Then finding the big bad. Eric even worked in some nice Easter eggs for the people that are part of his
on
D&D
the
campaign
that you do, your average one, Eric is the DM for that, correct?
Correct. And Daniel's part of our party.
Yeah.
Actually, our whole party was there, I'm pretty sure. So our whole party was there. So the only people who wouldn't understand the references were you, but you would know since we've discussed
the brother-in-law and
yeah,
soon-to-be brother-in-law.
Yeah, exactly. And it was a nice little Easter egg where we had a hag as the final boss. And in our regular Dungeons and Dragons sessions, Dan's first character died to a hag. He gave up his life to kill the hag. So she kind of killed him and he kind of killed her. And there's a whole thing now. The hag's hut is now a pub. There's a statue of his original character outside the pub, like that he's a hero and whatnot. So it was a nice little Easter egg, just playing up that, Dan and hags. So
that's good.
It was pretty fun. The highlight for me is I ordered weeks ago a custom 20-sided die.
Yep.
That has a gemstone die. It was a pink opal. And it had the initials of Dan and his fiance, a heart, and it had their wedding date. And I ordered it weeks ago. And I was like to Eric, I ordered this. Like, it'd be really cool if we could integrate it into the one shot somehow. And he was like, okay, cool. And then I messaged him last week and I was like, I don't think it's coming. From what I could tell, it's still way far off.
Yeah.
Some of it's like, when I ordered it, it said it would be here before the session date. But when I checked a different shipping tracking information for it, it was like, oh no, it's not coming till May. I was like, yeah, I don't think it's coming. Skip forward to Saturday, which is the day of the bachelor party. Matt graciously was a DD and picked up a couple of the people, and Eric was also a DD and picked up the remainder of the people here. And as Eric came in, said hi for a bit,
like 5-10 minutes.
Get everyone hyped up. And as we're leaving the front door, there's all of a sudden a box there. And this is like 12:40.
Yeah, in the afternoon.
And on a Saturday. and there's just randomly a boxer that wasn't there when Eric came. I pick it up and I was like, there's no way. And Eric looks at me and he's like, no. And it was it. It was the die.
Ta-da.
Maybe we'll put a picture up Matt can put a picture up in post of what the die looks like. It turned out really well. It was really pretty. He loved it, which is obviously the goal. And Eric did work it into the one shot where it was just a nice little trinket that the princess left him,
which was perfect. Added to the story, and it was a great opportunity.
It was
for
good.
The DM
Eric
to
had the
speak
letter,
to him.
and then we had the little case that came in. It was a nice little box, so it all worked out really well. Was there anything that kind of stood out for you during the session that you really liked, or?
I honestly really enjoyed the storytelling of. It was cool to see Eric DM. For someone who's now
right, because we've only played with him,
so I got
you're not part of the sessions. Yeah.
So from I took a lot from being a DM to improve my storytelling. I took a lot of just how he kind of did storytelling and
Well, and I don't want to out him, but he used ChatGPT, helped him a lot with just getting the basis of the skeletons of a lot of the characters because he knew he needed to make a bunch of characters and just have very general backstories and what. So it was a good example of it's okay to use tools like that to help create simpler models, whether that's even an NPC, or someone who wants to join in. You want to help create a really quick backstory because they're not into making that.
Exactly.
You got to use the tools that are there, and that it is a very useful tool. It is noticeable though because it can come off a little generic, but in cases like that, I think it's the perfect tool so you're not spending tons of time creating something, especially something we're only using once. And I think it worked out pretty well.
I think it did really well with that. For me personally, the first roll I did was in that one, and I was like, yep, that's how it's going to go.
You need new dice.
I need new dice.
You need new dice.
It's an excuse to buy dice.
Get married. Get a custom die, maybe.
One day.
One day. That's the plan.
But otherwise, I took a lot out of his storytelling and the way he described things. I thought it was really cool to be in a session with that many people and not be the DM.
Yeah, that's true.
Obviously, I knew most of the people that were there, so it was fun bouncing off them and kind of just seeing them in general. So the entire experience was good. The music Eric chose as well, which was really good to help the ambience of the session.
Yeah.
So shout out to Eric. Wonderful story, sir.
Yeah, and then after that, we headed out for dinner.
Nice Irish pub.
Had some
butter.
Had some foods. Matt had the most Irish meal ever. He had some poutine.
Some poutine. And a nice Guinness burger with some boxy fries.
And a boiga.
Yeah, that poutine was large.
Yeah, it was big. When I saw it, I was like, please tell me that's all you got. And then
I didn't think it was going to be
And then they came with a burger, and I was like, yeah. I had a chicken pot pie with some soda bread that I then split with one of the other guys. He got a chicken pot pie with mashed potatoes on the side. So we just split the bread and the mashed potatoes. So we had literally the same meal.
Perfect.
But yeah, it was really nice. I thought the food was pretty solid. I would say the French fries were probably the weaker. So probably good in a poutine because
the poutine was good for the fries, but by themselves, not the
but the
box deep fries were good.
Those things were fire.
Pancake style fries, delicious.
Yeah, those were unreal. And yeah, the night kind of went earlier than expected, so we ended up coming back to my place and finishing a hockey game.
Yeah.
You stopped by for a little bit as well. Brought Dan over.
Yep.
And we ended up shipping him off in an Uber after the game. But yeah, it was a late night after that. But it seemed like everyone had a good time after that. After we checked in with everyone, everyone was doing good and no complaints. So I mean,
easy peasy.
My job was done. Everyone had a good time. The Bachelor had the best time. That's what's important.
That's all that matters.
So yeah,
I think from there, I think the plan is to eventually have more one shots on the podcast.
Yes, for sure. We definitely want to. It's hard because we don't have a lot of space. So it's a combination of figuring out where we're going to do them, how we're going to do them, and who is going to run them. We have 2 DMs at the current moment in time that are both interested in doing a one shot for us. One of which both of them have been on the podcast. You have seen on or heard on the podcast. So they're not going to be new to you guys,
not
but
gonna name them,
it's going to be video. We're going to do our best to
Yeah.
have a decent video experience. That's the tough part we're working on, whether that is getting a space. Matt has a space at work that maybe we can go during the off hours that potentially we'll set
That
up
could work.
a session to
I
record.
am deep cleaning and redoing my entire apartment, which will be nice
Matt's
for
deep cleaning his
potential,
apartment.
potential place eventually. I mean, might need a larger table, but
And then the other thing is, how many players do we end up having? Do we have enough mics with our
Yeah.
current setup? That's another. So, although we did want to do one during the calendar year, and we didn't get to it,
that's okay though.
it's in the works.
We'll make it up on
We
this
know
one.
that Tim is working on it,
Yep.
and we know that
Our mystery.
our
DM.
mystery DM
It's
is
not Eric.
is super excited about it.
Yeah.
But Eric will be a player.
He will be a player.
Eric
It won't be
likes
the
to-
Chip Brothers. I mean, the Chip Brothers will return.
They'll return, but
But
Eric's always down to play a game where he's not
exactly.
DMing. So
We'll
We'll definitely
potentially
have him on
we'll
again.
go in and look at some other RPGs. Because
yes, I'm very interested in doing a Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yep. There's Avatar: The Last
RPG.
Airbender that I own the starter set for. So for my personal collection, I have the starter set for Avatar: The Last Airbender. I have the four core books of
Yep.
D&D, which is the Player's Handbook, Dungeon Master's Manual, Xanathar's Guide to Everything, and Monster Manual. I think, or the four I think I have. But yeah, so I have those four for D&D. I have all the Power Ranger ones. My friend Roberto got me the G.I. Joe one for my birthday.
Could be good though for the Power Ranger.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're all crossovers. So the
So
Transformers,
those
G.I.
ones
Joe
can all
and-
fit in.
yeah, exactly.
Mesh them together.
And then I also have Coyote and Crow,
Kite and Crow.
which
nice.
is a indigenous style RPG.
We have a
but-
lot of RPGs, and Matt obviously, like he's saying, he has a lot of RPGs available to him. If Matt ends up doing the GMing or not, to be determined. Another thing that I'm slowly been working on is putting together a One Piece D&D campaign,
Yep.
completely made basically from the ground up, and
Yeah, but from the world of One
from the
Piece.
world of One Piece, adapting it homebrew to
Hmm.
D&D 5th edition, which is a lot of work. And it's also, we want to make sure that we have people that are up to date so they understand it. To be determined if we'll do it on the podcast. If anything, we'll definitely be updating
highlights, etc.
for sure as we go. But that is something that's also in the works.
Yeah, if there's any of you that are listening that are either part of Connor's D&D campaign or my Power Ranger campaign or anything like that, or in RPGs in general, or want to get into them,
RPGs in general.
let us know. We could potentially do a Nerdy Misfit one-shot over Discord sometime.
Oh, now you're talking.
Or if you guys want to join one of the one-shots or the campaigns that we're potentially talking about, sorry, the screen went weird for a second there. Let us know, and we'll figure some stuff out. If you guys have any questions when it comes to D&D for any of our campaigns that we've been talking about,
We can bring Tim back on,
Bring Tim back on,
or Eric,
or the mystery DM,
or the mystery DM,
or any of the other people that are in the RPGs that want to come on,
and discuss their
experiences.
Yeah, for sure.
Talk about how bad of a GM I am.
Okay, well, we don't
Or
need
a
to.
good one.
Doesn't need to be a negative thing. Doesn't have
doesn't
to
have
be
to be
negative.
negative.
But yeah, I guess the only update for my D&D campaign is it's still not going on. It's still not going on, unfortunately. Although everyone's very hyped, and the hilarious part was during the bachelor party, Eric mentioned where we left off, and everyone was like, "Oh yeah,"
Oh, that's where we were.
because we left off in the Feywild. Like that's literally where we ended, and we're just like, "Yep, okay, we're in another realm now." No one even remembers like the other people's characters' names and stuff.
I do remember that. They're like, "Oh, what was that guy's character's name again?" Everyone's like,
So hopefully soon. I do miss it. I will say, we've mentioned it before, Baldur's Gate 3 has done a good job of scratching the itch,
That's fair.
for sure.
You'll also have to come out and watch a Power Ranger session one time.
I would definitely
see
like to,
The
come out,
chaos of it all.
see how it goes, maybe join. I'm looking at you guys.
Looking at you.
Maybe
Or
I can be a
listening to
villain.
you. Dun dun dun. Judy Bro's brother. No. But yeah, I think we do have a question.
Question. Should I hit the question
Go
corner
ahead,
button?
the question podcast
I don't even
corner. thing.
remember what button it is. This one.
Is it that one? It is that one.
Woo!
Well, this question comes from Christian, who's been on the podcast and in the Power Ranger podcast.
And we just talked about
him. His question is, what nerdism or nerdisms do you like enough that you might get any tattoos for? Or if you already have any, let's hear about them.
Well, I think I speak for both of us when I say
We don't
have tattoos.
Would you get a one-piece tattoo?
I have thought about multiple types of tattoos. It's more so one, I don't feel like spending money on a tattoo.
Yeah.
For roughly how much they cost, and to properly take care of it and stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
The other thing is, I very much do a lot more. Ebats, who we've had on, Eddie. That man.
I love his tattoos.
Sometimes he just gets a thought and he's like, I'm getting a tattoo, and he does it.
He's got a good amount, but
he's so just built different like that.
He's built different.
He's built different like that. For me, it's like, I'm like, will I still like this in a year?
Yeah.
5 years? 10 years?
But if you know, I guess. I don't know.
It's tough. I've definitely thought about getting the symbol of the Hidden Leaf Village.
Yep.
That's been a big one where it's not super standouty. It doesn't have to be in color. It can just be a simple, nice black, very simple. I have two brothers who I've discussed with potentially getting like some form of tattoo that represents 3 in a way. The issue is we all have to agree on it. So that's the first obstacle. So things that have been rejected are things such as we thought of doing the Deathly Hollows.
Okay.
Like the symbol that represents the Deathly Hollows, but having it bolded for each one having
part.
A different one.
Yeah.
Right? So like one would be like the Elder Wand, one would be the
stone,
and then one would be the triangle for the
cloak.
for the cloak, which was pretty cool.
Yep.
But then it's like one of them's like, I'm not likes Harry Potter, but I don't love Harry Potter enough to get a tattoo of it. What was another idea we had? I thought about doing a Celtic knot that's in a triangle to represent obviously 3. Got rejected as well. Basically we ended up with 3 dashes is the potential, where one person had, like me being the first one, would have 1 dash, then someone would have 2, and then 3.
Okay.
Which is just like, why even get a tattoo?
Yeah,
So that's why I haven't done that.
Yeah.
So my one brother does enjoy One Piece. The other one doesn't like anime or watch anime at all. But it would have been really cool to get a Luffy, Sabo, and Ace, like just their hats. Each of us get a different hat or something, which would have been really cool. But once again, everyone has to agree on one. So there's that issue. I've also thought about a tattoo for just One Piece in general. Part of me just thinks like something simple like the straw hat.
Yeah.
Because it would be pretty tacky to have like the flag or the straw hat logo.
Yeah.
But if you get like a really clean straw hat, nothing else, you know what it means. Some people might know what it means, but
others may not, etc. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of like the tattoos that are more like that. They're not as in your face of it's this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of have to know what it is. Like, for example, getting maybe one of Law's tattoos or like the Heart Pirates, where to a random person it just looks like, what is that? Like, what's that from?
Yeah.
Whereas someone who knows One Piece and knows Law, they'll understand what it is. I kind of like the idea for that. But once again, 1, I'm not a big fan of needles, and then 2, paying for it, taking care of it, making sure. And then if you get more than one, how like it feels like you should have kind of a plan going in of where they're gonna go. There's probably been others. I actually used to have a folder of potential tattoo ideas.
Okay.
And that way I could be like, I would look back and be like, do I still like that? And if I don't like it, then I'm glad I didn't get that as a tattoo.
It's true.
How about you?
I don't have any tattoos, like Connor said. I have thought about getting tattoos before. Nothing nerd related though. Just like
one non-nerd
stuff.
related one was a Celtic cross with a red hand, which is red hand represents the O'Neills. And the Celtic cross is obviously like an Irish cross, and it's also the gravestone of my grandpa and my grandma. So
That's awesome.
So that would be a more sentimental one.
For me, I mean, the tattoos that I would have in mind would have to do with my father. Like that's basically it. It'd be tribal art to represent both him and my indigenous culture because it's from my dad's side.
Yep.
So if anything, I would get like a small tribal art of an owl and a raven. Those are just significant.
Any
animals.
fandoms that you could potentially see?
I don't know. Like, part of me think it'd be cool to have like a Star Wars tattoo, but then like,
would you fall more under the line of like same thing where it's like you would like it to be something that represents Star Wars? Maybe someone who is a fan of Star Wars could pick it out, but maybe not as
do like a lightsaber or anything like that. That's just personal.
Ebats has some pretty funny ones.
I love his tattoos,
but
though, the hammerhead.
And the thing is, he loves them.
Exactly.
And that's what matters. It's just definitely not. I think I'd speak for both of us when it's not our style to just have some random. The hammerhead's hilarious though.
I love the hammerhead.
I think his Spider-Man's clean.
Spider-Man's clean. His Gengar holding a lightsaber is pretty.
That one's so random. So random.
Yes, the One Piece tattoo as well.
Yep.
He has a bunch. I'm drawing a blank on a couple of them.
He's got a lot of tattoos. Yeah. We'll have to have him on. Oh no, he discussed them on his.
A little bit,
so,
yeah, but I think he's
probably
got
a lot more now.
Yeah,
he's actually gotten into One Piece since then. So
he does have the One Piece tattoo.
We'll definitely have to have him on again, discuss tattoos and his thought process. But thanks for the question.
Yeah,
let us know in our Discord if you have tattoos, or if you're thinking about getting any tattoos, or if you're scared of getting tattoos but you want tattoos, and what is it from.
Talk about the tattoos. But until then, thanks for listening. Thanks for being with us for over 2 years now.
2 years! And finally on videos.
Before we wrap up, anime of the month. Connor, what's the anime of the month for May?
Flying Witch.
Flying Witch.
Very feel-good anime for all of you out there if you don't want crazy shonen action. But it's... I've only watched the first 2 episodes, but so far it's been very chill. Okay. So if you're not already... join us in watching. We're doing a monthly watch along each month. So there'll be another anime. If this isn't for you,
stay tuned for
next month. Maybe we'll have one that is for you. And feel free to suggest them in their Discord.
Exactly.
Which will be linked down below.
As always.
And you can catch the podcast on any major podcast platform. So make sure to follow if you're on Spotify. And we're now on YouTube, as you can see. Literally on video.
Hello, if you're watching this.
So if you're on YouTube, subscribe, ring the bell so you get notifications when we post new videos.
We'll be coming up with shorts hopefully soon. Stay tuned for that, which will be super fun. But until then, thanks for listening.
And we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.
TNMP, the Nerdy Misfit Podcast. Don't forget to join the island by dropping a follow. Thank you. And see you next week.